I struggled with this video. Got halfway through editing, audio completely died. I had to rewrite, re-record, and re-edit everything in a handful of hours. So stick with me. Hopefully it's still enjoyable. If you were caught up with Chainsaw Man Part 2, there is one question that I propose to you. What happens if Asa weaponizes Denji? The story as of recently is fueling rather directly into this idea, and we are seeing the earliest conception of it. Let me explain. See, when it comes to Nostradamus, when it comes to Fami, when it comes to Fall, war is the one that is being used as a weapon, but not against Denji, but against the Age of Devils. You see, Nostradamus' prophecy predicts that this Age of Devils is going to exist, and if nothing can stop it, the human world will fall to ruin and cease to operate. Now Famine, our third horseman's sister, is currently not vibing with this. She wants no part of it, and funny enough, the reason for that isn't anything grand or noble, it is quite literally personal. She doesn't want all of the delicious food that humanity has cooked up over generations to disappear, very fitting for her name. Now because of this, she has initiated Operation Fall, a primordial fear to actually capture War, starve her entirely from food, so Famine can take control of her. Now this is one of Famine's abilities. It is how a being such as Fall is also under control. At this current time, the only thing we understand is that the individual affected needs to be fully starved, so Fami can activate her ability and take full control over said person. Now if you think about it, it's kind of funny that it also works on horsemen, but isn't necessarily surprising because it works on primal fears which are arguably stronger. That's impressive. This also fits perfectly into the idea that every horseman has their own native control-like ability, potentially tools of the horseman. Remember the names of what hybrids originally were? That's conveniently been erased, but that is for a different video. Now Makima, quite literally, is able to control people. War also being able to control people, but through the lens of weaponry within herself, and now with Famine. There's most likely something there for Death as well, but we'll save that for another time also. Now this idea gives us the groundwork for Asa weaponizing Denji. This whole beginning part of Chainsaw Man Part 2 has been about War or Yoru taking over Denji, forcing him to throw up fallen comrades of War. Now as much as this is a personal vendetta, it seems to always be like that with horsemen. She thinks that it may be easier to acquire all potential weapons of war that Pochta has ate over different generations. Nuclear warheads is the one we know about, so clearly a personal matter with nothing arcing to Nostradamus. Now what adds even more value onto this idea is the romantic relationship that is building between Denji and Asa. As conflicted as their encounters have been, they are becoming closer. They are strengthening their connection little by little and spending more and more time with each other. And even though that conflict is there and challenged, their different paths ultimately end up winding back onto one another in a weird, blooming way. For the first time, you are seeing two characters that have such an odd back and forth with each other reveal the truest side of themselves. This is mostly centered around Asa, with Denji getting thrown back into the mix either as himself or as the mysterious Chainsaw Man. Now while this is brewing a nice chunky relationship, it brings up the most vital question: will Asa weaponize Denji? Now there is this picture as well, you might know it. It was the promotional art for Chainsaw Man Part 2. We knew nothing about it at the time, but now it starts to make a lot more sense. See, I think there will come a time within the story where Denji willingly or accidentally becomes a weapon to war, but through Asa. Now this comes with some caveats. It may not be full control, as per se Fami with Fall or Makima with Aki, but maybe a partial agreement, maybe even a partial contract, which we know devils of strong caliber can create. Primal fear, horsemen, it's not out of the realm of possibility. For me, this works rather nicely with what the threat of Nostradamus' prophecy could actually be. If we are dealing with something that is bringing forward the Age of Devils, wielding Denji and or Pochita as your weapon of choice is a great way to get rid of it for good. They may not know it at this time, but whatever they have to face, you probably don't want it to come back very easily. Even mutually, they sit in rather equal positions. Fami wants to save the human race for food. Asa will not want to die after fighting so hard to finally live. War still wants her revenge on Chainsaw Man, but Denji and Pochita also don't want the human race or Naruto to die. See, they all have their own personal agendas, but funny enough, equal out to the same conclusion, the same problem, Nostradamus' prophecy and its impact. And if Famine is so worried that she wants to use war as her own weapon to defeat it, you best believe it's going to be something powerful. So I think at some point this image might actually come true. Asa will wield Denji as a weapon and it will be incredibly powerful, especially if we continue to build up that double relationship that's been going on between them. One being Denji, the other Chainsaw Man. How they feel about each other, how much they learn about each other. See, Asa is still very much in the dark when it comes to the identity of Chainsaw Man. However, playing into that unknown works well to set up a major reveal between them, something that could be rather funny. Think of a superhero reveal, but with Fujimoto's twist. Now you can probably see a lot of threads coming together nicely to get to this point. Some may waver and go in other directions, of course, but for now, with what we know, they are all tangled together, hurtling towards this seemingly unstoppable prophecy with mutual goals. Maybe it has to happen that Denji gets weaponized. Maybe he has to get used for his power to stop whatever is coming and erase it for good. If Denji and Pochita are the only ones that could stop it this way, maybe to enhance it further is having that partial contract or agreement between Asa and Denji be a real thing. What's funny about all of this is war's ability. It's based off of guilt. So you could take something that realistically isn't powerful, but pour so much guilt into it that it becomes insane. Now think about that, but for something that is already powerful, like Pochita's erase ability, you add emotional guilt to that, and what happens? You create something that may be able to defeat impossible things. Now what is this threat, you ask? What could need such a wild weapon to slay it? Well, Nostradamus' prophecy is a weird thing to pinpoint, but if Asa needs to use Denji in any way, you best believe it's already going to be rather ridiculous. And I'm not talking just another primal fear, I mean something that potentially might conquer all. Now real quick, the original prophecy was aimed towards the rebirth of Genghis Khan. If you know anything about that person, you know just how worldly scary they are. In Chainsaw Man's case, however, for me, there are two things. Two beings I feel could match this energy as of now. The first being the fourth and final horseman, that is a death, and the second is what I call the fear of fears. Now theoretically both could work, but it could also just as easily be neither. Death for one is hard to use and is already a little inaccurate. And here's why. We know that all four horsemen and primal fears have fought Pochita before. To clarify, Pochita has on his own equally run hands with some of the most powerful devils of all time at the same time. Now if Fami, of all people, is scared of, let's say, this oncoming death, it's probably because death itself has either evolved, absorbed, or changed in some way. I don't know how that could be possible. Maybe contracts or the passive control ability that horsemen have, who knows, but that's all I have for death. The second option being the fear of fears might sound silly, but it's an idea I've thought about for quite some time now. It's something I feel fits right into Fujimoto's unpredictable style with a pinch of goofiness within there, especially with how it could be utilized. See, we have a loose devil tier system in Chainsaw Man. You have your normal devils, fiends, hybrids, horsemen, primal fears, which seem comfortable at the top. Then you have this prophecy that makes it seem like there's something higher. What really confused this was Fami being able to control a primal fear as powerful as four. Now we don't know the circumstances between that agreement, but it makes it a lot harder to scale the devils within their respective categories. So if there was one being that sits above them all, my money, as of now, is on the fear of fears. Now this is a legitimate thing, but it doesn't work the same way as a normal fear. It's more of a close relative to primal fears, but less directional. So it's subconscious, meaning you don't have to actively think about it. But it also isn't a singular thing. It's more the DNA, the foundation, the chemical reaction that is generated within any fear itself within all living things. So whatever fear you may have, the fear of fears is at its root. It too theoretically gets stronger. Now maybe that fear grows over time. So it starts off as a normal devil, which seems kind of weird to say, but eventually evolves over time to a primal fear and above. We haven't really seen that yet, so it could be an interesting way to go about it. Now, it would make sense that this thing can't be spawned easily, similar to how primal fears can't jump into Earth on their own accord. They have to do, agree, or sacrifice something for it to be possible. This is a whole prophecy, a whole event, a whole age of devils. If the fear of fears embodies all of that, how do you kill it? Well, you might want to erase it entirely using Pochita, maybe even wielded by war. But the question is, do you actually do that? Do you see the problem? Getting rid of fear itself may sound like a great idea, but indirectly kills humanity as a whole. Fear is what keeps us alive. It's what makes us human. It's what challenges us. The fear of different things happening allows us to learn and evolve. You take that away and potentially everyone would wipe themselves out. Humanity would destroy itself as there's no consequence to actions, no thought behind dangerous and stupid events. Humans would fall and the age of devils could easily replace it. If this prophecy does come true, should whatever it spawns be killed or erased entirely, that is a moral dilemma that Denji, Asa, and even Yoshida may have to face. The funniest thing is that it may not be any of this, but for me, it makes for an interesting conversation, one to chew on, one to think about and come back to discuss. In due time, I'm sure we will find the answers, but as of right now, I'd love to hear yours, your ideas, your theories, and how you feel about this one. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, supports me a ton and I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you all for watching.